Sometimes the person destroying your life is not someone else. It is the voice inside you, the voice that makes you doubt yourself, return to what hurts you, and give up before you even begin. This book will help you end self-sabotage, silence your negative inner voice, and take back control of your life. But before we begin, subscribe to the Book Frog, like this audiobook, and comment below, "I will stop destroying myself." Write it as a promise to the person you are becoming. Now let us begin with Chapter 1, where you will discover the hidden ways you may be damaging your own life without even realizing it. Chapter 1. The hidden ways you are destroying yourself. Most people do not destroy their lives in one dramatic moment. They do it slowly. They do it through small decisions repeated so often that those decisions begin to feel normal. They ignore their own needs, silence their intuition, stay where they are not respected, delay the work that could change their future, and then wonder why their life feels heavy. Self-destruction does not always look dangerous. Sometimes it looks like overthinking. Sometimes it looks like staying silent when something is hurting you. Sometimes it looks like returning to someone because loneliness feels more painful than disrespect. Sometimes it looks like telling yourself that you will start tomorrow, even though you have already said tomorrow 100 times. The most dangerous habits are often the ones you keep defending. You say, "This is just who I am." But what if it is not who you are? What if it is only who you became while trying to survive? Maybe you learned to expect disappointment, so now you ruin good opportunities before they can hurt you. Maybe you learned that love must be earned, so now you chase people who make you prove your worth. Maybe you learned that your voice does not matter, so now you stay quiet even when your heart is begging you to speak. You call it patience, you call it loyalty, you call it being understanding. But sometimes it is fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being judged, fear of starting again, fear of discovering that you stayed too long in a place that was never meant for you. That fear keeps you trapped because it convinces you that familiar pain is safer than unfamiliar freedom. You know how rejection feels. You know how disappointment feels. You know how it feels to give too much and receive too little. But growth feels uncertain. Growth asks you to become someone you have never been before. It asks you to set boundaries, make difficult decisions, accept temporary loneliness, and stop waiting for people to understand the pain they caused. So you return to what is familiar. You return to the same habits. You return to the same excuses. You return to the same people. And every time you return, you lose another small piece of trust in yourself. This is how self-sabotage becomes powerful. It does not only damage your future, it damages the relationship you have with yourself. Every time you promise yourself that you will change and then ignore that promise, something inside you becomes quieter. Every time you say, "I will never allow this again," but then allow it again, your mind begins to believe that your words have no power. You stop trusting yourself, and when you do not trust yourself, every decision becomes difficult. You ask everyone else what you should do. You wait for approval. You become afraid to choose because deep inside, you no longer believe that you will protect yourself if the choice becomes painful. This is why the first step is not confidence. The first step is honesty. You must become honest about what you are doing to yourself, not what they did, not what life did, not what happened years ago. What are you doing now? Are you feeding thoughts that make you weaker? Are you checking on people who already chose to leave? Are you staying in situations that keep stealing your dignity? Are you comparing your beginning to someone else's success? Are you speaking to yourself in a way you would never speak to someone you love? You may not be able to control the first negative thought that enters your mind, but you can control whether you build a home for it. You may not be able to control who rejects you, but you can control whether you turn their rejection into your identity. You may not be able to control who leaves, but you can control whether you keep leaving yourself after they are gone. That is the part you must understand. The deepest pain is not always caused by the person who walked away. Sometimes it is caused by the way you continue punishing yourself after they leave. You replay every conversation. You search for the exact moment when everything changed. You ask what you did wrong. You imagine what you could have said differently. You continue hurting yourself with questions that may never receive an answer. At some point, you must realize that closure is not always information. Sometimes closure is a decision to stop reopening what life has already closed, a decision to stop carrying someone who no longer carries you, a decision to stop allowing one painful chapter to control the meaning of your entire story. But before you can change, you must see the pattern. Look closely at your life. What do you do when you feel afraid? Do you delay? Do you disappear? Do you become attached to people who are emotionally unavailable? Do you reject opportunities before they can reject you? Do you convince yourself that you need more time when what you truly need is courage? Fear often disguises itself as logic. It says, wait until you are ready, but you never feel ready. It says, think about it a little longer, but thinking becomes avoidance. It says, do not take the risk, and slowly, your life becomes smaller. You begin to confuse safety with peace, but they are not the same. Safety can keep you in the same room for years. Peace gives you the courage to walk out. Safety avoids every difficult conversation. Peace speaks the truth and accepts the consequences. Safety keeps everyone comfortable. Peace allows you to disappoint people when protecting yourself requires it. You cannot continue choosing comfort and expect your life to transform. A better life will ask something from you. It will ask you to stop making excuses for what is hurting you. It will ask you to stop calling your weakness loyalty. It will ask you to stop calling your fear patience. It will ask you to stop calling your self-neglect kindness. Kindness without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. Loyalty without self-respect becomes imprisonment. Patience without change becomes wasted time. You must begin naming things correctly. The person who only remembers you when they need something is not deeply connected to you. The habit that helps you avoid your future is not harmless. The thought that tells you to quit before you begin is not wisdom. The voice that constantly insults you is not discipline. Discipline builds you. Cruelty destroys you. There is a difference between correcting yourself and attacking yourself. You can say, I made a mistake and I need to do better. That is growth. But when you say, I always fail, I ruin everything, I will never change, you are not learning, you are sentencing yourself. And the mind eventually begins to live according to the words it hears most often. If you constantly tell yourself that you are weak, you will stop testing your strength. If you tell yourself that nobody will ever choose you, you will begin accepting anyone who gives you temporary attention. If you tell yourself that it is too late, you will stop noticing the doors that are still open. Your words become instructions. Your repeated thoughts become beliefs. Your beliefs become decisions. Your decisions become your life. This is why you must protect your inner voice, not by pretending everything is perfect, not by avoiding responsibility, but by refusing to turn every mistake into a reason to hate yourself. You are not your worst decision. You are not the person who rejected you. You are not the opportunity you missed. You are not the time you wasted. You are not the version of yourself who did not know better. You are the person who knows better now, and knowing better creates a responsibility. You can no longer claim that you do not see the pattern. You see it. You feel it. You know which habit is draining your future. You know which connection is disturbing your peace. You know which excuse you keep repeating. You know which dream you keep delaying. The truth is already inside you. You may not need another sign. You may only need the courage to obey what you already know. The moment you recognize the ways you are destroying yourself is not a moment of shame. It is a moment of power. Because anything you can recognize, you can interrupt. Anything you can interrupt, you can change. And anything you can change no longer has complete control over your life. You do not have to fix everything today, but you must stop pretending that nothing needs to change. Start with one pattern, one thought you will no longer believe, one person you will no longer chase, one promise you will keep, one excuse you will stop using, One action that proves you are no longer willing to remain the person who keeps standing in your own way. This is how your rebuilding begins. Not with a perfect plan, not with a dramatic announcement, but with one honest decision, the decision to stop participating in your own destruction, the decision to become aware before reacting, the decision to protect your future even when your emotions are pulling you backward, the decision to finally say, "I see what I have been doing to myself, and I will not continue." That sentence is more powerful than it appears, because the moment you become honest, the pattern becomes weaker, and the moment the pattern becomes weaker, you begin becoming stronger. Chapter 2. Stop believing every negative thought. Once you begin recognizing the hidden ways you have been hurting yourself, the next step is to understand where many of those patterns begin. They begin inside your mind, in the private conversations nobody else can hear, in the thoughts that appear so quickly and so naturally that you rarely stop to question whether they are true. Your mind can produce a thought in a single second, but that thought can influence your emotions, your decisions, your relationships, and even the direction of your entire life. The dangerous part is not that negative thoughts appear. Every human being experiences fear, doubt, insecurity, and uncertainty. The dangerous part is believing that every thought deserves your trust simply because it came from inside your own head. Your mind is not always reporting reality. Sometimes it is repeating memory. Sometimes it is replaying an old rejection, an old criticism, or an old humiliation, and placing it over the present moment as if nothing has changed. A person takes longer than usual to reply, and your mind immediately tells you they are losing interest. You make one mistake, and your mind tells you that you always ruin everything. You think about beginning something new, and before you even take the first step, your mind shows you every possible way it could fail. These thoughts often feel intelligent because they sound cautious, but many of them are simply fear trying to prevent you from entering unfamiliar territory. Fear has learned how to speak in a reasonable voice. It rarely says, "I want to destroy your future." Instead, it says, "Wait until you are more prepared." It says, "Think about it a little longer." It says, "Do not take the risk because you might embarrass yourself." It says, "Stay where you are because at least you understand this pain." Fear does not always push you toward disaster. Sometimes it quietly convinces you to do nothing, and doing nothing for long enough can become its own kind of destruction. You must understand that your mind was designed to protect you, but protection and truth are not always the same thing. Your mind remembers what hurt you because it wants to help you avoid being hurt again. If you were betrayed, your mind may become suspicious of everyone. If you were rejected, it may tell you not to become emotionally open again. If you failed publicly, it may tell you not to try anything that could place you in front of others. These reactions may have begun as protection, but if you continue obeying them forever, the walls built to protect you will eventually become the walls that imprison you. There is a difference between a warning and a prison. A warning asks you to move carefully. A prison tells you never to move. A warning helps you learn from the past. A prison forces you to live inside it. Wisdom does not tell you that everyone will hurt you because one person did. Wisdom does not tell you that you are incapable because one attempt failed. Wisdom does not tell you that your future must repeat your past. Fear speaks in absolute words, such as always, never, everyone, nobody, impossible, and too late. Whenever your mind begins speaking in absolutes, pause before believing it. The thought may say, "Nobody cares about me," but is that completely true? Or are you feeling rejected because one person failed to show up in the way you hoped? The thought may say, "I am not good enough," but good enough for what? And according to whose standard? The thought may say, "I will fail," but failure is only one possible outcome, and growth is another. The thought may say, "It is too late," but as long as you are still capable of making a different decision, it is not too late to change direction. You do not need to answer every negative thought with perfect confidence. Sometimes forced positivity feels dishonest, especially when you are deeply afraid. You do not have to tell yourself that everything will go perfectly. You only need to stop treating the worst possible outcome as the only possible outcome. Instead of saying, "I know I will succeed," you can say, "I do not know what will happen, but I am willing to try." Instead of saying, "Nobody will ever hurt me again," you can say, "If someone hurts me, I trust myself to respond differently." Instead of saying, "I have no fear," you can say, "Fear is here, but it will not make this decision for me." This is how you take authority back from your mind. You stop demanding certainty before action. You stop waiting for fear to disappear before you move. You stop allowing temporary emotions to create permanent limitations. Your mind may continue producing doubt, but doubt no longer has to control your behavior. One of the most important things you can learn is how to separate facts from stories. Facts are simple. Stories are the meanings your mind adds. The fact may be that someone has not replied. The story may be that they no longer care, that you embarrassed yourself, and that the relationship is ending. The fact may be that you made one mistake. The story may be that everyone has lost respect for you, and that you will never recover. The fact may be that you feel uncertain. The story may be that uncertainty means danger. Facts allow you to respond with wisdom. Stories often make you react from fear. Before you allow a thought to influence your next decision, ask yourself, what do I actually know, and what am I imagining? That question can save you from unnecessary pain, impulsive messages, damaged relationships, and decisions made from panic rather than truth. Many of the thoughts you believe today did not begin with you. They were given to you by people who spoke carelessly when you were too young, too vulnerable, or too dependent to reject their words. Maybe someone told you that you were difficult, weak, slow, selfish, unattractive, unworthy, or impossible to love. Maybe a parent was never satisfied, a teacher embarrassed you, a partner constantly criticized you, or a group made you feel that you did not belong. Their words may have been spoken years ago, but after hearing them often enough, you began repeating them to yourself. Eventually, you no longer needed them to criticize you because you had learned to do it for them. You made their voice your inner voice. This is why you must ask yourself, whose voice am I hearing when I speak against myself? Is it truly yours, or is it an echo from someone who never understood your value? Is it your honest judgment, or is it the memory of someone who benefited from making you feel small? Not every voice that lives inside your mind deserves a permanent home there. You are allowed to return those words. You are allowed to say, "This belief was given to me, but I do not have to carry it." You are allowed to build a new inner voice, one that is honest without being cruel, firm without being destructive, and disciplined without making you hate yourself. A healthy inner voice does not excuse every mistake, but it also does not turn every mistake into proof that you are worthless. It says, "You were wrong, but you can correct it." It says, "You are hurt, but you are not finished." It says, "You are afraid, but fear is not your identity." It says, "You can take responsibility without destroying yourself." There is a major difference between correction and condemnation. Correction shows you what needs to change. Condemnation tells you that you are incapable of change. Correction says, "This decision was unhealthy." Condemnation says, "You are a failure." Correction creates movement. Condemnation creates shame, and shame often makes people hide, avoid, and repeat the very patterns they are trying to escape. You cannot insult yourself into becoming stronger. You cannot hate yourself into becoming peaceful. You cannot build confidence with words that constantly attack your worth. Discipline that destroys your spirit is not discipline. It is cruelty wearing the face of self-improvement. Imagine speaking to a child the way you speak to yourself after a mistake. Imagine telling them that one failure means they will always fail, that one rejection means nobody will ever love them, or that one difficult season proves their life will never improve. you would recognize immediately how damaging those words could become. Yet many people speak to themselves this way every day and then wonder why they feel exhausted, anxious, and afraid to act. The mind listens to repetition. A thought repeated often enough begins to feel like a fact, even when it has no evidence. If you constantly tell yourself that you are behind, your progress will never feel meaningful. If you constantly tell yourself that you are unlovable, healthy affection may feel suspicious while unhealthy attention feels familiar. If you constantly tell yourself that you cannot change, you will stop noticing opportunities that require you to believe otherwise. Your repeated thoughts become beliefs. Your beliefs influence your decisions, and your decisions shape your life. This is why changing the way you speak to yourself is not a small emotional exercise. It is a serious act of rebuilding. Begin by noticing the language you use internally. Pay attention to what you say when you wake up late, miss an opportunity, feel rejected, or make a mistake. Do you use words like always and never? Do you insult yourself? Do you predict disaster before you have evidence? Do you assume other people are judging you, even when they have said nothing? Awareness is the first step, because you cannot change a voice you never stop to hear. When a destructive thought appears, do not immediately fight it, and do not automatically obey it. Observe it, name it. Say, "This is fear speaking," or "This is an old belief," or "This is my mind trying to protect me from uncertainty." Naming a thought creates distance. It reminds you that you are the person observing the thought, not the thought itself. You are not every sentence your mind produces. You are the one who decides which sentences deserve to become truth. The negative voice may not disappear immediately. It may return when you are tired, lonely, rejected, or under pressure. Old thoughts become louder during weak moments because your mind naturally returns to familiar patterns. Do not see their return as failure. See it as an opportunity to respond differently. Progress does not mean never hearing the old voice again. Progress means the old voice no longer controls the final decision. Your mind may say, "Send the message, chase them, explain yourself one more time," but you can choose silence. Your mind may say, "Quit now before you fail," but you can continue. Your mind may say, "You are not ready," but you can begin imperfectly. Your mind may say, "Nothing has changed," but you can look at the boundaries you kept, the promises you honored, and the habits you interrupted. Evidence is stronger than fear. Give yourself evidence that you are becoming someone different. Every time you refuse to obey a destructive thought, you weaken the pattern. Every time you take one step while afraid, you teach your mind that fear is survivable. Every time you speak to yourself with firmness and compassion, you create a new internal language. There will be moments when the negative voice sounds convincing because it knows your history. It remembers every mistake, every rejection, every moment of weakness, and every promise you failed to keep. But it does not know your future. It only knows what has already happened. It cannot see the strength you are developing through the decisions you are making now. Do not let your past speak with authority over a future it has never seen. You are not required to keep becoming the person your old thoughts expect you to be. You can interrupt the sentence. You can rewrite the belief. You can choose a different action. The mind you have today was shaped by repetition, and the mind you want will also be shaped by repetition. Speak differently, choose differently, and respond differently long enough, and what once felt impossible will begin to feel natural. One day, the voice that once said, "You cannot do this," will become quieter. Not because fear has completely disappeared, but because you have created stronger evidence. You will remember the difficult conversation you survived, the boundary you kept, the opportunity you accepted, and the night you did not return to the person who kept breaking you. Your actions will answer the voice before you need to. This is how self-trust is built. Not through empty motivation, but through repeated proof. Your mind can be a dangerous place when every thought becomes a command, but it can also become the place where your healing begins. You can teach it to pause before predicting disaster, to question old beliefs, and to stop turning every painful moment into a permanent identity. You deserve an inner voice that helps you rise after failure, protects you during uncertainty, and reminds you that one difficult chapter does not decide the ending of your story. Stop believing every negative thought. Some thoughts are warnings, but many are wounds speaking. Some thoughts are wisdom, but many are fear pretending to be truth. Some thoughts deserve your attention, but others deserve to pass without changing your direction. The next time your mind speaks against you, do not ask, "Why am I thinking this?" Ask, "Do I want this thought to decide what I do next?" That is where your freedom begins. Not when the thought disappears, but when you stop obeying it. Chapter 3. Stop returning to what keeps breaking you. Some of the deepest damage in your life does not come from what happened once. It comes from what you keep returning to after you already know how it ends. You return to the same person, the same conversation, the same hope, and the same disappointment. You tell yourself that this time will be different, that perhaps they finally understand your value, that maybe the distance changed them, or that one more honest conversation will awaken the love, respect, or consistency you have been waiting for. But when the same pain returns, you act surprised, even though a part of you recognized the pattern before you went back. This is one of the most painful forms of self-sabotage, because you are not walking into something completely unknown. You are returning to something your heart has already survived. You remember the beautiful moments and temporarily forget the nights you could not sleep. You remember the affection and ignore the confusion. You remember the promises and minimize the behavior that repeatedly contradicted them. Memory becomes selective when loneliness enters the room, and suddenly the person who drained you begins to look like the person who could save you. Loneliness can make familiar pain look like love. It can make inconsistency look exciting, emotional distance look mysterious, and small amounts of attention look more meaningful than they truly are. When you have been starved of emotional safety, even crumbs can feel like a feast. You become grateful for the bare minimum because you have forgotten what consistency feels like. This is why letting go is not only about removing someone from your life, it is about changing the belief that made you accept so little from them. You may tell yourself that you stayed because you loved deeply, but love is not the only reason people remain in painful relationships. Sometimes they stay because they are afraid to begin again. Sometimes they stay because they have connected their worth to being chosen by one particular person. Sometimes they stay because they believe leaving means admitting that all the time, energy, patience, and forgiveness they invested were wasted. So they invest even more. They remain in a damaging situation because they do not want the past to feel meaningless. But staying longer does not recover what has already been lost. It only increases the price. The time you gave is already gone. The question is not whether you can recover it. The question is whether you will continue giving more of your life to something that has repeatedly shown you its limits. You must stop using history as a reason to ignore reality. A long connection is not automatically a healthy connection. Shared memories do not guarantee a shared future. Someone knowing everything about you does not mean they know how to value you. Familiarity can create attachment, but attachment alone cannot create respect, safety, or peace. You can have years of history with someone and still be wrong for each other. You can love someone and still recognize that remaining connected is destroying you. You can miss someone and still refuse to return. Missing them does not mean the decision to leave was wrong. It means you are human and your heart remembers what mattered. The mind often assumes that pain is proof you should go back, but sometimes pain is simply part of moving forward. Healing hurts because you are separating yourself from something your emotions became dependent on. Your heart may still reach for what your mind already knows is harmful. This does not mean you are weak. It means your emotional habits have not yet caught up with your new decision. Do not mistake emotional withdrawal for a sign that you belong together. When chaos has been part of a relationship for a long time, peace can initially feel empty. Your nervous system may have become used to waiting, worrying, checking, and wondering. You may have confused anxiety with connection because the relationship kept you emotionally activated. When that chaos disappears, silence feels uncomfortable. You may say, "I miss them," when what you actually miss is the emotional intensity. You may miss the relief that came after conflict, the temporary affection after distance, or the brief moments when you finally received what you had been begging for. Those moments felt powerful because they followed deprivation. This is not always love. Sometimes it is a cycle of pain and temporary relief. The relief feels so strong that you begin forgetting what caused the pain. You return for the comfort, but the comfort exists only because the same person first created the wound. You must learn to recognize the difference between peace and relief. Peace does not require someone to hurt you before they comfort you. Peace does not disappear every few days. Peace does not force you to constantly prove your value, decode mixed signals, or wonder whether you are asking for too much. A healthy relationship may have difficult moments, but it does not repeatedly make you question your dignity. You should not need to become emotionally exhausted before someone finally listens. You should not need to disappear before they notice your value. You should not need to threaten to leave before they give you the care you have been requesting calmly for months. Attention received only when you are walking away is not the same as consistent love. Some people do not truly miss you. They miss access to you. They miss your availability, your forgiveness, your emotional support, and the way you continued understanding them without asking for equal effort in return. When you begin withdrawing that access, they may suddenly become attentive. They may say everything you wanted to hear. They may promise change, apologize deeply, and remind you of the beautiful moments you shared. You must listen carefully, but you must watch even more carefully. Words can create hope in one conversation. Only behavior can create trust over time. An apology without changed behavior is not transformation. It is often a temporary attempt to stop the consequence. Real change is not proven by how emotional someone becomes when they are about to lose you. It is proven by what they consistently do when they feel secure that you are staying. Do not allow one powerful conversation to erase a repeated pattern. Do not confuse regret with growth. Someone can regret losing you and still lack the maturity required to treat you well. Someone can love you and still be unhealthy for you. Someone can mean well and still keep hurting you. Understanding their wounds does not require you to keep becoming the victim of them. You may know why they act the way they do. You may understand their childhood, their fears, their insecurities, and the experiences that shaped them. Compassion can help you see their humanity, but compassion must not become permission. Their pain may explain their behavior, but it does not make the behavior harmless. You are not required to destroy yourself while waiting for someone else to heal. You cannot love another person into becoming ready. You cannot sacrifice enough to create emotional maturity in someone who refuses to face themselves. You cannot keep giving more of yourself and expect your exhaustion to become the reason they finally change. People change when they decide that their current way of living is no longer acceptable to them. Your suffering cannot make that decision for them. This is why boundaries are necessary. A boundary is not an attempt to control another person. It is a decision about what you will do when a certain behavior continues. It does not say, "You must become different so I can feel safe." It says, "If this continues, I will protect myself by creating distance." Many people are afraid of boundaries because they believe boundaries will cause them to lose relationships. Sometimes they will. But any relationship that can survive only when you have no boundaries is already costing you too much. A boundary reveals the truth. People who respect you may not always agree with your boundary, but they will try to understand it. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will often call you selfish, cold, dramatic, or changed. They are right about one thing. You have changed. You are no longer willing to make yourself uncomfortable so everyone else can remain comfortable. You are no longer willing to say yes while your heart is screaming no. You are no longer willing to call constant forgiveness love when it has become permission for repeated disrespect. Your growth will disappoint people who preferred your self-abandonment. Let them be disappointed. You are not responsible for protecting people from the consequences of how they treated you. You are responsible for protecting the life you still have ahead of you. Sometimes the boundary you need is a conversation. Sometimes it is reduced access. Sometimes it is silence. Sometimes it is leaving completely and accepting that the other person may never understand why. You do not always need a perfect final conversation. Closure is not something another person must give you. If your peace depends on them admitting what they did, explaining why they did it, or apologizing in exactly the way you need, then your healing remains in their hands. They may never admit the truth. They may create a version of the story in which you are the problem. They may misunderstand your silence, criticize your decision, or tell others that you abandoned them. You may never receive the explanation that satisfies your heart. At some point, you must decide that your experience is enough. You know what the relationship did to your mind. You know how often you doubted yourself. You know how many times you cried, waited, forgave, explained, and accepted promises that disappeared as soon as the danger of losing you passed. You do not need their permission to believe your own pain. You do not need agreement to leave. You do not need to prove that you suffered enough to deserve peace. Sometimes closure is the moment you stop asking a person who hurt you to help you understand the hurt. You turn inward and say, "I may never know why they did it, but I know I cannot continue allowing it." That decision is closure. There will still be nights when you remember them. There will be moments when you are tempted to check their life, reread old messages, or imagine that they have finally become the person you needed. During those moments, your memory may show you only the best parts. You must remember the complete story. Remember how often you felt confused. Remember the promises that were not kept. Remember how your body felt when you saw their name and did not know whether comfort or pain was coming. Remember how many times you lowered your expectations to avoid losing them. Remember how much of yourself you abandoned to keep the connection alive. Do not return because you are temporarily lonely and create permanent damage to your peace. Loneliness passes. The consequences of reopening the wrong door can remain for much longer. There is a reason you left, created distance, or began questioning the relationship. Do not betray the clarity you found during your strongest moment because your weakest moment wants familiar comfort. Write down the reasons if necessary. Do not rely only on memory when emotion becomes powerful. Emotion can rewrite history. It can make you remember what you wanted the relationship to become instead of what it consistently was. You were not in love only with the person. You may also have been in love with their potential. You saw who they could become. You imagined what the relationship might feel like if they healed, matured, committed, communicated, or finally recognized your value. You remained attached to a future that existed mostly inside your imagination. Potential is dangerous when it keeps you loyal to a reality that is destroying you. You cannot build a life with who someone might become. You must decide based on who they repeatedly choose to be. Hope is beautiful, but hope without evidence becomes self-deception. You can wish someone well without waiting for their transformation. You can believe they may change one day without sacrificing your present while they decide whether they want to. You are allowed to love someone from a distance that keeps you safe. You are allowed to forgive without reconnecting. Forgiveness does not always mean access. You can release hatred and still keep the door closed. You can wish them healing and refuse to become part of the process. You can understand that they were wounded and still protect yourself from the ways they spread those wounds. Many people return because they believe leaving means they never truly loved. But sometimes leaving is the first time you love yourself enough to stop participating in your own destruction. Walking away does not erase what you felt. It does not mean the memories were meaningless. It means you finally accepted that love should not require the loss of your identity, your dignity, your stability, or your future. You may grieve not only the person, but the future you imagined with them. You may grieve the conversations that will never happen, the promises that will never be fulfilled, and the version of them you kept hoping would appear. Allow yourself to grieve. Do not rush the pain. Grief is not weakness. It is the heart adjusting to a truth the mind may have accepted earlier. But while you grieve, do not keep reopening the connection. A wound cannot close while you continue touching it to see whether it still hurts. Every message resets the healing. Every secret check keeps the attachment alive. Every imagined reunion keeps you emotionally unavailable for the life that is trying to meet you beyond this chapter. Distance is not cruelty when closeness keeps destroying you. Silence is not manipulation when it is being used to protect your peace. Leaving is not failure when staying requires you to betray yourself. The hardest part of letting go is often accepting that you may never stop caring completely. You may always remember them. A song, a place, a date, or an ordinary moment may bring the memory back. Healing does not require forgetting. It requires remembering without returning. One day, the memory will no longer command your behavior. You will think of them without needing to reach for them. You will remember the past without wishing to repeat it. You will understand that something can have mattered deeply and still belong behind you. That is freedom. Freedom is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to feel the emotion without allowing it to decide your direction. You must begin choosing people and places that do not require you to recover after every interaction. Pay attention to how your body feels around someone. Do you feel peaceful, respected, and free to be honest? Or do you feel tense, uncertain, and constantly afraid of saying the wrong thing? Your body often recognizes danger before your mind is ready to accept it. Do not keep explaining away what your nervous system keeps experiencing. A connection should not require constant emotional survival. You deserve relationships where communication does not feel like a battle, where affection is not used as a reward, where silence is not used as punishment, and where your needs are not treated like unnecessary problems. But receiving healthy love may feel unfamiliar at first. You may mistake stability for boredom because you became accustomed to chaos. You may question kind people because you are waiting for the hidden punishment. You may feel suspicious when someone gives without making you earn it. Be patient with yourself. Your heart must relearn what safety feels like. Do not run back to chaos simply because peace feels unfamiliar. Give peace time to become familiar. Give yourself time to understand that love does not need to hurt before it feels real. The same lesson applies beyond relationships. Stop returning to habits that keep damaging your future. Stop returning to endless distraction when you know it leaves you empty. Stop returning to excuses that protect you from action. Stop returning to environments where everyone mocks growth and celebrates stagnation. You cannot heal in a place that rewards the version of you you are trying to outgrow. Sometimes you must change your surroundings, your routines, your conversations, and the people who have access to your attention. Not because you believe you are better than them, but because you are finally serious about becoming better than the version of yourself that remained trapped. Growth requires separation. A seed must leave its shell. A new life often requires the death of an old pattern. You cannot become who you are meant to be while continuously returning to everything that keeps you who you were. There will come a moment when you must choose between your history and your future. The old connection will call. The old habit will feel tempting. The old version of you will whisper that returning once will not matter. In that moment, remember this. Every return is a decision about who will control your life, the past or the person you are becoming. Choose the person you are becoming. Choose the peace you have not fully experienced yet. Choose the future that cannot enter while you keep reopening the past. You have already learned what that door contains. You do not need another wound to confirm the lesson. You do not need one more betrayal, one more disappointment, or one more night of questioning your worth. The pattern has spoken clearly. Now your decision must speak louder. Stop returning to what keeps breaking you, not because you no longer care, but because you finally care about yourself too. Not because leaving is easy, but because remaining has become too expensive. Not because the past meant nothing, but because your future must begin meaning more. The strongest thing you may ever do is refuse to return to the place where you once begged to be treated with basic respect. Close the door, protect the lesson, and keep walking until peace no longer feels lonely, but feels like home. Chapter 4. Stop waiting for someone to save you. There is a dangerous hope many people carry without admitting it. They believe that one day someone will arrive and finally make everything easier. The right person will love them so completely that their insecurities will disappear. The right opportunity will appear and remove the need for courage. Someone will recognize their potential, open every door, heal every wound, and give them the motivation they have been unable to create for themselves. Until then, they remain where they are, waiting for life to begin. You may not call it waiting. You may call it preparation, patience, bad timing, uncertainty, or needing more confidence. But beneath all those explanations, you may be postponing responsibility for your own life. You are hoping for a moment when action will no longer feel uncomfortable, when fear will disappear, when your direction will become perfectly clear, and when somebody will stand beside you and guarantee that you cannot fail. That moment may never come. Life does not usually give complete confidence before the first step. Confidence is often the reward you receive after taking the step while uncertain. Clarity does not always appear while you are standing still. Sometimes the road becomes clear only after you begin walking. You have waited long enough to feel ready. Readiness is not a feeling you must receive. It is a decision you make when you finally become more afraid of remaining the same than of attempting something new. There may be people who support you, guide you, encourage you, and believe in your potential. Their presence can become a beautiful source of strength, but nobody can live your life on your behalf. Nobody can develop discipline for you, protect every boundary for you, remove every distraction, make every difficult decision, or force you to become the person you keep saying you want to be. Someone may give you advice, but they cannot make you follow it. Someone may offer you an opportunity, but they cannot make you prepare for it. Someone may love you deeply, but they cannot create self-respect inside you if you continue abandoning yourself. Help can support your transformation, but it cannot replace your participation. This truth may initially feel harsh, but it is actually freeing. If your future depended entirely on somebody else arriving, choosing you, approving you, or saving you, then your life would remain in their hands. The moment you accept responsibility, your power begins returning to you. Responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything that happened. You did not choose every wound, every loss, every betrayal, or every difficult circumstance. Some chapters were placed in your life without your permission. Responsibility means accepting that although you did not create every problem, you must still decide what happens next. You may not be responsible for the way someone damaged your confidence, but you are responsible for whether you continue repeating their words inside your mind. You may not be responsible for the person who abandoned you, but you are responsible for whether you keep abandoning yourself because of them. You may not be responsible for the years you lost, but you are responsible for whether you sacrifice more years grieving what cannot be returned. This is where your life begins changing, not when the past becomes fair, but when you stop allowing its unfairness to control your future. For a long time, you may have waited for an apology. You believed that if the person who hurt you finally admitted what they did, you would be able to move forward. You imagined the conversation in which they understood your pain, accepted responsibility, and gave you the closure you deserved. But every day you waited, your healing remained connected to their willingness to become honest. What happens if they never apologize? What happens if they continue defending themselves, rewriting the story, or pretending they did nothing wrong? Will you give them the power to delay your peace forever? Your healing cannot depend on the person who wounded you becoming the person capable of healing you. Sometimes you must give yourself the apology you never received. You must acknowledge what happened, believe your own experience, and stop waiting for someone else to confirm that your pain was real. You may never receive the words you deserved, but you can still decide that the chapter no longer controls you. You may also be waiting for someone to believe in you before you begin believing in yourself. You want recognition before effort, applause before discipline, and reassurance before risk. You tell yourself that if one person sincerely encouraged you, you would finally take your dream seriously. But what if nobody sees it yet? Will you abandon your potential because it has not been recognized by people who cannot see where you are going? Most meaningful beginnings are lonely. Before the result becomes visible, the effort often looks unnecessary to everyone except the person carrying the vision. People may question why you are working so hard, why you are changing, why you are becoming less available, or why you believe you can create something different from the life you have known. You cannot wait for everyone to understand. Some people only believe after they see proof. Your responsibility is to create the proof. You must become willing to work while nobody is watching, improve while nobody is praising you, and continue while the results are still too small for anyone else to respect. Your dream does not need public approval during its most fragile stage. It needs protection, consistency, and your willingness to keep showing up. Perhaps you are not waiting for a person. Perhaps you are waiting for motivation. You believe that one morning you will wake up filled with energy, confidence, and excitement, and from that moment your habits will completely change. You will suddenly become disciplined, focused, fearless, and committed. Motivation may begin the movement, but it cannot be trusted to carry you through every day. Motivation changes with your mood. It becomes weaker when you are tired, disappointed, distracted, or unable to see immediate results. If you only act when motivation is present, your future will be controlled by temporary emotions. Discipline begins when you stop asking whether you feel like doing what needs to be done. Discipline says that the promise matters even when the excitement is gone. It says that your future deserves effort even on ordinary days. It does not demand perfection, but it refuses to let one difficult mood destroy an important direction. You do not need to feel powerful before behaving like someone who respects their future. You do not need to feel confident before sending the application, beginning the project, entering the room, setting the boundary, or ending the habit. Action can happen while your hands are shaking. Fear is a feeling, not an instruction. Tiredness is real, but it does not always mean you must quit. Doubt is uncomfortable, but it is not proof that you are making the wrong decision. You have allowed emotions to vote on too many decisions that belong to your values. Your feelings should be heard, but they should not always become your leader. A difficult emotion may tell you what you are experiencing, but it does not always know what is best for the life you are building. There will be mornings when your emotions want comfort, but your future needs discipline. There will be moments when your emotions want to return to familiar people, but your peace needs distance. There will be nights when your emotions want distraction, but your dream needs one more hour of focused effort. Every time you choose your values over a temporary feeling, you become stronger. The greatest obstacle may not be a lack of talent, time, or opportunity. It may be the habit of postponing action until tomorrow. Tomorrow feels safe because it asks nothing from you today. Tomorrow allows you to imagine a better life without facing the discomfort required to build it. You say that tomorrow you will begin exercising, saving money, studying, writing, creating, applying, healing, or leaving. Tomorrow becomes the place where the strongest version of you lives, while today is repeatedly given to distraction. But tomorrow eventually becomes today, and the same excuses are waiting. You must stop admiring the person you could become and begin behaving like them. The future version of you is not created through imagination alone. That person is built every time you choose what is necessary over what is immediately comfortable. They are built when you get up instead of pressing the alarm again, when you complete the task instead of scrolling, when you protect the boundary instead of sending the message, and when you continue despite receiving no immediate reward. Your future is being constructed through decisions that may appear small. A life is not usually destroyed by one missed day, but a repeated pattern of missed days can slowly destroy a dream. In the same way, a life is not transformed by one perfect morning, but a repeated pattern of honest effort can completely change your direction. Do not underestimate small decisions. 1 hour of focused work may not change everything today, but repeated for months, it can create a skill, a business, a book, a healthier body, or an entirely new identity. One decision not to return to a harmful person may feel lonely tonight, but repeated consistently, it can return your dignity and peace. Small decisions become powerful when they are repeated. The problem is that many people make promises that are too large and then use their inability to keep them as proof that they lack discipline. They promise to change their entire life in one day. They create a perfect routine that requires a level of energy they have never maintained. They expect themselves to become a completely different person overnight. When they fail to follow the perfect plan, they abandon everything. This is another form of self-sabotage. You do not need a perfect beginning. You need a believable beginning. Make a promise small enough to keep and important enough to matter. Read 10 pages. Walk for 20 minutes. Work without distraction for 30 minutes. Save a small amount. Remove one harmful contact. Complete one task you have delayed. Go to sleep at the time you promised. The action may appear unimpressive, but its deeper purpose is not only completing the task, you are rebuilding trust with yourself. Every time you make a promise and keep it, your mind receives evidence that your words mean something. Every time you say you will act and then act, you repair the relationship with yourself. Gradually, you stop seeing yourself as someone who always quits, delays, or returns to old habits. Self-trust is not created through positive statements alone. It is created through evidence. You can repeat that you believe in yourself 1,000 times, but if you consistently ignore your commitments, the words will feel empty. However, when you begin keeping even small promises, confidence grows naturally because you have proof that you can rely on yourself. This is why your next step does not need to impress anyone. It only needs to be completed. Do not announce every change. Sometimes public announcements give you the emotional reward before you have done the work. You speak about what you are going to build, how disciplined you are going to become, and how dramatically your life is about to change. People congratulate you, and for a moment, you feel as though the transformation has already happened. Then the excitement disappears, and the work remains. Let your actions become louder than your plans. You do not need everyone to know that you are rebuilding. Quiet progress is still progress. In fact, some of the strongest transformations happen in silence, away from people who might distract you, discourage you, or repeatedly remind you of the version you are trying to leave behind. Protect your process. Not everyone deserves access to the early stage of your growth. Some people will laugh because they only know your past. Some will question your discipline because they have seen you quit before. Some will subtly discourage you because your change forces them to examine their own stagnation. Their doubt does not have to become yours. You are not required to convince them. Use your energy to continue. You must also stop waiting for perfect conditions. There will always be a reason not to begin. You may not have enough time, money, energy, knowledge, support, or certainty. Some limitations are real and should not be ignored, but many become excuses when you use them to avoid taking any action at all. You may not be able to do everything, but what can you do with what you have today? Perhaps you cannot leave the situation immediately, but you can begin preparing. Perhaps you cannot dedicate 5 hours to your goal, but you can dedicate 30 focused minutes. Perhaps you do not know the complete path, but you know the next necessary step. Take the step you can take. Do not use the absence of ideal conditions as permission to remain completely motionless. A person waiting for the perfect road may never leave their starting point. The road is often created by walking. You learn through action, adjust through experience, and discover abilities that remain invisible while you are only thinking. You will make mistakes. You will choose the wrong method, trust the wrong idea, misjudge your strength, or discover that your original plan needs to change. That is not proof you should never have begun. It is part of becoming experienced. You cannot demand wisdom from yourself before allowing yourself to gain experience. Beginners are supposed to be imperfect. Growth requires you to tolerate the discomfort of not being excellent yet. If your ego cannot survive being a beginner, your potential will remain trapped behind the need to look capable. Give yourself permission to learn publicly, progress slowly, and improve through repetition. Failure is not always the destruction of your plan. Sometimes it is information that improves the plan. It reveals what does not work, what needs more attention, and where your preparation is incomplete. The person who never fails may simply be the person who never attempts anything difficult. Stop treating every mistake as a final judgment. A mistake is an event, not an identity. You can correct direction without condemning yourself. You can admit that something did not work without deciding that nothing ever will. Your negative inner voice may use your first difficulty as evidence that you should quit. It will say, "You knew this would happen. You are not ready. Go back to what is familiar." This is where Chapter 2 becomes practice. You must recognize that the thought is not a command. Continue long enough to discover what exists beyond the first difficulty. Many people quit during the stage when their new life still feels unnatural. They exercise for a week and stop because their body has not changed. They create for a month and stop because nobody is watching. They set a boundary and break it because loneliness arrived before peace became familiar. Transformation requires a period in which your effort is greater than your visible reward. This period is not proof that nothing is working. It is where your character is being built. You are becoming the person capable of carrying the result you desire. Discipline is being strengthened, emotional dependence is weakening, and your ability to continue without immediate validation is growing. Do not interrupt the process because the reward has not arrived quickly enough. Some seeds grow underground before anything becomes visible. If you keep digging them up to check whether they are working, you prevent them from developing. Your growth also requires patience, consistency, and trust in actions whose results are not yet obvious. Keep watering what you want to grow. At the same time, do not confuse patience with endless delay. Patience continues working while waiting. Delay waits without working. Patience respects the process. Delay uses the process as an excuse to avoid beginning. Ask yourself honestly, which one you have been practicing. Have you been patiently developing, or have you been waiting for life to change while repeating the same habits? Have you been preparing, or have you been hiding inside preparation because completion would expose you to judgment? Honesty will reveal the difference. Another rescue fantasy appears in relationships. You may believe that the right person will arrive and finally make you feel complete. You imagine that their attention will remove your loneliness, their love will heal your insecurity, and their presence will give your life direction. A healthy relationship can bring joy, companionship, and support, but another person should not become responsible for creating your entire sense of worth. When you enter love hoping to be rescued from yourself, you place impossible pressure on the connection. No amount of reassurance will permanently satisfy a person who refuses to believe they are worthy. They may receive love and still fear abandonment. They may be chosen and still search for signs that they will eventually be rejected. The answer is not endless external reassurance. It is becoming someone who remains present for themselves. Build a life before asking another person to become the center of it. Create routines, values, goals, friendships, interests, and a sense of purpose that belong to you. Then love can become a beautiful addition rather than the only reason you feel alive. You are not half of a person waiting for someone else to complete you. You are a complete person who is still growing. Do not hand another person the responsibility for your happiness and then become angry when they cannot carry it. Learn to create peace in your own presence. Learn to enjoy your own company. Learn to solve problems, make decisions, and survive difficult emotions without immediately searching for someone to remove them. Independence does not mean refusing support. It means support is something you appreciate, not something without which you completely collapse. Become emotionally capable of standing even when someone is not holding you. One day, people may leave, circumstances may change, opportunities may disappear. If your identity is entirely dependent on what exists outside you, every loss will feel like the loss of yourself. Build something within that remains. Build character. Build faith in your ability to recover. Build a mind that can experience disappointment without deciding that life is over. Build habits that carry you through days when emotions cannot. Build a relationship with yourself that does not end when someone else changes their mind. This inner foundation is what prevents loss from becoming complete destruction. Perhaps you are waiting because you are afraid of making the wrong choice. You think remaining undecided protects you from regret, but refusing to choose is also a choice. It allows circumstances, other people, and passing time to decide for you. There is no life without risk. If you stay, you risk wondering what might have happened if you left. If you leave, you risk discovering that the new path is difficult. If you speak, you risk being misunderstood. If you remain silent, you risk carrying resentment. If you begin, you risk failure. If you never begin, you guarantee regret. You cannot remove risk. You can only choose which risk is worthy of your life. Choose the risk that offers growth, rather than the comfort that guarantees stagnation. You may choose incorrectly sometimes, but you can adjust. You are not signing a contract with every decision forever. A new direction can be corrected, a mistake can be repaired, a path can be changed. Trust yourself to respond to what happens. You do not need to predict every future problem before moving. You only need to believe that when a problem appears, you will not abandon yourself. This is the confidence you have been searching for. Confidence is not knowing that nothing will go wrong. Confidence is knowing that if something goes wrong, you will face it. You will learn, adapt, seek help when necessary, and continue protecting your future. You have already survived moments you once believed would destroy you. You survived rejection, uncertainty, heartbreak, disappointment, and days when you had no idea how life would improve. You are still here. Do not use your history only as evidence of pain. Use it as evidence of survival. The person waiting for rescue has forgotten their own strength. They look outside themselves for a hero while ignoring how many times they have already stood up after falling. You may not have saved yourself perfectly, but you kept going. Now it is time to do more than survive accidentally. It is time to participate intentionally in your own rescue. Reach toward the version of you who feels trapped and tell them that you are no longer leaving them alone in difficult moments. Tell them that you will make the appointment, complete the work, protect the boundary, ask for help, face the truth, and take the next step. Become the person your younger self needed. Become the voice that says, "I will not let fear decide our entire life." Become the hands that begin rebuilding what pain damaged. Become the loyalty you kept giving to everyone except yourself. Nobody is coming to live your life for you, but this is not tragic news. It means the pen is still in your hand. You can begin before you feel ready. You can act while afraid. You can take responsibility without blaming yourself. You can accept support without surrendering your power. You can keep a small promise today and use it as the foundation for a stronger identity tomorrow. Stop waiting for the perfect person, the perfect mood, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect moment. The moment becomes powerful because of what you decide to do inside it. Choose one action now, not next week, not when motivation returns, and not when somebody finally believes in you. Now, send the message that moves your life forward. Close the conversation that keeps pulling you backward. Begin the work, make the plan, keep the promise. Take one step that tells your future you are finally coming. You do not have to rescue your entire life in one day. You only have to stop abandoning it today. The person who will save you is not a stranger arriving from somewhere far away. It is the version of you who is willing to take responsibility, endure discomfort, and continue despite uncertainty. That person is already inside you. They have been waiting for permission to stand. Give them permission now. Chapter 5. Forgive yourself before it is too late. There is one person many people spend their entire lives fighting. It is not the person who betrayed them. It is not the person who rejected them. It is not the person who walked away. It is themselves. Long after everyone else has moved on, they continue punishing themselves for mistakes they can no longer change. They replay old conversations, relive painful memories, and imagine 100 different endings. They keep asking themselves the same exhausting questions. Why did I trust them? Why didn't I leave sooner? Why wasn't I stronger? What is wrong with me? The tragedy is that life has already moved forward, but they are still living inside a chapter that ended years ago. This is another way people destroy themselves, not through what happened, but through refusing to stop carrying it. Your past should be your teacher, not your prison. Yet many people turn their past into a life sentence. Every mistake becomes proof that they are not good enough. Every failure becomes evidence that they should stop trying. Every broken relationship becomes another reason to believe they are impossible to love. Eventually, they stop seeing mistakes as something they made. They begin seeing mistakes as who they are. That is where healing begins to disappear. There is a huge difference between saying, "I made a bad decision," and saying, "I am a bad person." One sentence creates wisdom. The other creates shame. Shame is dangerous because it convinces you that change is impossible. It whispers that no matter how hard you try, you will always become the same person again. It tells you that your future has already been decided by your past. But your past cannot make another decision. Only you can. Think about the person you were 5 years ago. You knew less. You had fewer experiences. You carried different fears. You made choices based on the knowledge you had at that time. Today you judge that version of yourself using the wisdom you gained because of those very mistakes. That is not fairness. That is impossible. You cannot expect your younger self to possess lessons that only pain could teach. Maybe you trusted the wrong people because you believed everyone had a good heart. Maybe you stayed because you thought love meant never giving up. Maybe you tolerated disrespect because nobody had ever taught you what healthy boundaries looked like. Maybe you ignored the warning signs because you wanted the relationship to work more than you wanted to face the truth. Those decisions may have been painful, but they were made by a version of you who was still learning. You are no longer that person, so why are you still punishing them? Forgiveness is one of the hardest gifts you will ever give, not because other people deserve it, but because sometimes the person you struggle most to forgive is yourself. You remember every embarrassing moment, every wrong decision, every opportunity you wasted, every person you hurt, every dream you abandoned. And deep inside you secretly believe that you deserve to continue suffering because of it. But suffering does not erase the past. It only steals your future. You cannot build a peaceful life while constantly attacking yourself. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every single day. At first it feels manageable. Then your shoulders begin to ache. Your back becomes tired. Your steps become slower. Eventually you forget what it feels like to walk freely because the weight has become normal. That is exactly what guilt does. At first it reminds you to learn. Then, if you never let it go, it begins crushing the very person it was supposed to improve. Healthy guilt teaches. Unhealthy guilt tortures. One helps you become wiser. The other convinces you that you deserve less happiness than everyone else. Ask yourself something honestly. If your closest friend came to you carrying the same regrets you carry today, would you speak to them the way you speak to yourself? Would you tell them they are worthless? Would you tell them they ruined their life forever? Would you tell them nobody could ever love them again? Of course not. You would remind them that people grow. You would remind them that everyone makes mistakes. You would remind them that one chapter does not define an entire book. Why then do you refuse to offer yourself the same compassion? You have become your own harshest judge, and every day you continue believing that voice. You slowly destroy the person you could become. The truth is that every strong person you admire has made decisions they regret. Every successful person has failed. Every confident person has doubted themselves. Every wise person was once inexperienced. The difference is not that they avoided mistakes. The difference is that they stopped allowing those mistakes to become their identity. You cannot rewrite yesterday, but you can completely rewrite tomorrow. The lesson has already been paid for. Do not keep paying for it with the rest of your life. Take the lesson. Leave the punishment. There is another reason people struggle to forgive themselves. They believe forgiving themselves means pretending nothing happened. It does not. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is remembering without continuing the self-hatred. You can accept responsibility while still believing you deserve another chance. You can admit that you were wrong while still believing your future can be beautiful. Growth does not require self-hatred. Growth requires honesty. Say to yourself, I was wrong. I made mistakes. I hurt people. I trusted the wrong people. I stayed too long. I ignored my intuition. I wasted precious time. Then continue. But I learned. I am changing. I refuse to repeat those mistakes. My past will educate me, not imprison me. That is real healing. Do not confuse punishment with progress. Some people believe that if they keep criticizing themselves, they will never repeat the mistake. The opposite usually happens. Constant self-criticism destroys confidence. Destroyed confidence creates fear. Fear creates avoidance. Avoidance creates more mistakes. Then the cycle repeats. You do not become stronger by attacking yourself. You become stronger by becoming honest enough to change. There is a powerful sentence I want you to remember. The person who made those mistakes no longer exists. That version of you is gone. You are listening to this book because you want something different, because you are growing, because you refuse to stay the same. So stop dragging your old identity into every new chapter. Do not introduce yourself to your future using yesterday's failures. Introduce yourself using today's decisions. Every morning is another opportunity to become someone your past would not even recognize. Maybe you spent years destroying yourself. That does not mean you must spend the rest of your life doing the same. One decision can begin changing everything. One boundary. One healthy habit, one difficult conversation, one apology, one act of courage, one promise you finally keep. Little by little, the person you are becoming begins replacing the person you thought you would always be. Healing is not becoming perfect. Healing is refusing to become your own enemy anymore. Today, I want you to make a quiet promise. Stop using your past as evidence against your future. Stop reminding yourself of who you used to be every time you are about to grow. Stop carrying guilt that no longer teaches you anything. Instead, carry wisdom, carry strength, carry self-respect, carry hope. Because the greatest apology you can give your younger self is not another year of regret. It is building the life they always dreamed of but never believed was possible. Forgive yourself, not because your mistakes did not matter, but because your future matters more. The day you stop fighting yourself is the day your real healing finally begins. Chapter 6. Become the person your future is waiting for. There comes a moment in every person's life when they must make a decision that changes everything. Not a decision about someone else, not a decision about the past, a decision about who they are going to become. Until now, this book has shown you the ways you may have been destroying yourself. We have uncovered the hidden voice inside your mind, the painful habits that quietly steal your future, the relationships that slowly drain your spirit, the excuses that keep you standing still, and the guilt that keeps you chained to yesterday. But awareness alone does not transform a life. Knowing what is wrong is only the beginning. The real question is this: who are you going to become now that you know the truth? Most people spend their lives trying to change their circumstances while refusing to change their identity. They want better relationships without becoming emotionally healthier. They want confidence without facing fear. They want peace while continuing to feed chaos. They want success without discipline. They want a different future while protecting the same habits that created their current reality. Life rarely works that way. Your future is not built by what you occasionally do. It is built by who you repeatedly choose to be. Every action you take is casting a vote for the person you are becoming. Every promise you keep strengthens a new identity. Every promise you break strengthens the old one. Every difficult decision you avoid teaches your mind that fear is your leader. Every difficult decision you face teaches your mind that courage is growing stronger. You are becoming someone every single day. The only question is whether you are becoming the person your future needs or the person your past keeps trying to recreate. Many people are waiting for life to change before they change themselves. I'll become disciplined when life becomes easier. I'll become confident when people believe in me. I'll become happier when I have more money. I'll become peaceful when everyone finally treats me well. But if your identity always depends on your circumstances, then your circumstances will always control your life. Real transformation begins when you decide who you are before the evidence fully appears. Not pretending, not lying to yourself, but making decisions that are consistent with the person you want to become instead of the person you have always been. Imagine someone who wants to become healthy. They do not wake up one morning with a completely different body. They begin making choices that a healthy person would make. They move, they eat differently, they sleep differently, they protect their energy. One decision does not change their life. Thousands of repeated decisions do. The same is true for every part of your life. If you want to become peaceful, stop feeding unnecessary conflict. If you want to become confident, stop running every time fear appears. If you want to become trustworthy, begin keeping the promises you make to yourself. If you want to become emotionally free, stop giving your happiness to people who have already shown you they cannot protect it. Identity is built through repetition. This is why your daily habits matter more than your occasional motivation. Many people wait for inspiration before taking action. Strong people create action even when inspiration is nowhere to be found. They understand that feelings change, but values remain. Some mornings you will wake up excited. Other mornings you will wake up tired, discouraged, disappointed, or emotionally empty. If your actions depend entirely on your emotions, your future will become unstable. But if your actions are guided by your values, then even difficult emotions cannot stop your progress. Ask yourself a simple question. What kind of person do I want to become? Not what job you want. Not how much money you want. Not who you want beside you. Who do you want to be when nobody is watching? Do you want to become someone who always keeps their word? Someone who protects their peace? Someone who remains calm during difficult moments? Someone who chooses honesty even when it costs them? Someone who walks away from disrespect without begging to be understood? Someone who refuses to destroy themselves just to make other people comfortable? Those qualities are built in ordinary moments. They are built when nobody is applauding you. Character grows in private. Reputation is simply what people notice later. Too many people spend years trying to impress strangers while disappointing themselves every single day. They break promises to themselves, but keep promises to everyone else. They sacrifice their peace to avoid disappointing people who would never make the same sacrifice for them. Slowly, they lose respect for themselves. Never forget this truth. Self-respect is not something another person gives you. It is something you earn through your own decisions. Every time you abandon your values for temporary approval, self-respect becomes weaker. Every time you remain loyal to your principles despite discomfort, self-respect grows stronger. You begin trusting yourself, and self-trust changes everything. When you trust yourself, rejection becomes less frightening because you know you will not abandon yourself afterward. Failure becomes less terrifying because you know you will stand back up. Loneliness becomes less painful because you have learned how to enjoy your own company. Uncertainty becomes less overwhelming because you have survived uncertainty before. Your strength is no longer borrowed from other people. It comes from within. There will always be voices trying to define you. Some will remind you of your failures. Some will tell you that people never really change. Some will laugh at your new boundaries. Some will say you are becoming selfish because you no longer tolerate disrespect. Others will become uncomfortable because your growth exposes the comfort of their excuses. Do not let someone else's opinion become your identity. People often judge you based on the version of you that benefited them the most. The moment you change, some people will no longer recognize you. That is not always a loss. Sometimes it is proof that you are finally growing. Growth often feels lonely in the beginning because your new identity arrives before your new environment. The old people no longer fit. The new people have not arrived yet. You find yourself standing in the middle. Do not mistake that season for failure. It is a bridge. Every meaningful transformation includes a season where you feel like you belong nowhere. Keep walking. Do not return to your old life simply because your new life still feels unfamiliar. Comfort has destroyed more dreams than difficulty ever could. Your comfort zone will always whisper beautiful lies. It will tell you to wait one more week. It will tell you to forgive the same behavior one more time. It will tell you that one more excuse will not matter. It will tell you that tomorrow is a better day to begin. But comfort is expensive. It quietly charges you with years. One day you wake up wondering where your time went, wondering why everyone else seems to be moving while you remain standing in the same emotional place. Do not let another year disappear waiting for permission to become who you already know you are capable of becoming. The future version of yourself is depending on the decisions you make today. Imagine meeting yourself 10 years from now. What would that person thank you for? Would they thank you for protecting your peace? Would they thank you for finally leaving the relationship that kept destroying your confidence? Would they thank you for beginning the project you almost abandoned? Would they thank you for choosing discipline instead of comfort? Or would they ask why you spent so many years waiting for a perfect moment that never arrived? Your future is watching today's decisions. Give that future something to be grateful for. Remember something else. Transformation is rarely dramatic. Movies convince us that life changes overnight. Real life changes quietly. One boundary, one healthy conversation, one morning where you refuse to quit, one evening where you choose reading instead of distraction, one promise you keep, one fear you finally face, one apology you give, one person you stop chasing, one habit you refuse to repeat. Small actions become powerful because they become daily evidence. Eventually, your identity catches up with your behavior. One day, people call you disciplined. They never saw the hundreds of ordinary days when you chose consistency over excuses. One day, people call you peaceful. They never saw the nights you spent learning not to react emotionally. One day, people call you confident. They never saw how frightened you were every time you chose courage anyway. People see the result. They rarely see the repetitions that created it. Do not become discouraged because your progress looks invisible. Invisible growth is still growth. The tallest trees spend years developing roots nobody can see. When storms arrive, those hidden roots become their greatest strength. Build your roots. Build your character. Build your discipline. Build your integrity. Build your relationship with yourself. Everything else grows from there. There is another habit that quietly destroys potential: comparing your journey to someone else's. Comparison convinces you that you are behind. It makes you forget that every person's life follows a different path. Someone else's success is not evidence of your failure. Someone else's chapter 20 should never become the standard for your chapter 3. The only comparison that truly matters is this: are you becoming wiser than yesterday? Are you becoming calmer than last year? Are you keeping more promises than before? Are you protecting your peace better than you once did? If the answer is yes, then you are already moving in the right direction. Do not measure your life only by achievements. Measure it by the person you are becoming while pursuing them. A goal can be taken away. Character cannot. Money can disappear. Wisdom remains. Relationships may change. Integrity stays with you. Your greatest achievement will never be what you own. It will be who you become while building it. This chapter is not asking you to become perfect. Perfection is another trap. It convinces you that unless you can do everything flawlessly, there is no point beginning. Forget perfection. Choose progress. Progress allows mistakes. Progress allows slow days. Progress allows setbacks. But progress refuses to surrender. You are going to have difficult mornings. You are going to experience disappointment. There will be moments when your old habits call your name. There will be days when your negative inner voice becomes louder than usual. Do not panic. That does not mean you are returning to your old self. Healing is not the absence of struggle. Healing is choosing differently, while struggle still exists. Each time you choose differently, your new identity becomes stronger. Eventually, what once felt impossible becomes natural. One day protecting your peace will no longer require a battle. One day saying no will no longer fill you with guilt. One day discipline will feel normal. One day walking away from disrespect will happen without endless overthinking. One day your life will become evidence that people really can change. Not because somebody rescued you, not because life suddenly became easy, but because you decided to become someone your past could no longer control. That decision begins today. Not next month, not next year. Right now. Stop asking whether you are capable. Start acting like the person you are capable of becoming. Your future has been waiting patiently for this version of you. Do not keep them waiting any longer. Chapter 7. End the war within and take back your life. There is a battle taking place inside many people that nobody else can see. From the outside, they may appear calm, capable, productive, and strong, but inside, they are constantly fighting themselves. One part of them wants to grow, while another part keeps pulling them backward. One part wants peace, while another part keeps returning to chaos. One part wants discipline, while another part searches for comfort. One part wants to move forward, while another part is still emotionally attached to everything that belongs in the past. This inner conflict is exhausting because the person is not only trying to survive life, they are also trying to survive their own mind. They wake up with good intentions, but before the day is over, old habits have returned. They promise themselves they will stop chasing, stop delaying, stop overthinking, stop accepting less, and stop destroying their own opportunities. But when fear, loneliness, temptation, or uncertainty arrives, the promise becomes weak. Then guilt begins. They criticize themselves for failing again. They speak harshly to themselves, lose confidence, and decide that perhaps they will never change. That belief creates more pain, and the pain drives them back toward the same habit that created the guilt. This is how the war continues. A destructive action creates shame. Shame creates emotional pain. Emotional pain creates the desire for relief. The person returns to the habit that gives temporary relief, and afterward, the shame becomes even stronger. To take back your life, you must stop fighting yourself in ways that make you weaker. The answer is not becoming more cruel toward yourself. The answer is becoming more honest, more disciplined, and more loyal to the person you are trying to become. You do not need another dramatic promise. You need a new relationship with yourself. For too long, you may have treated yourself like someone whose needs could always wait. You gave everyone else patience while demanding perfection from yourself. You forgave other people repeatedly while using your own mistakes as permanent evidence against your worth. You kept showing up for people who disappointed you, but when you disappointed yourself, you withdrew love. That must end. You cannot become whole while continuing to divide yourself into two enemies, the person who made mistakes and the person who now hates them for it. Both versions are you. The past version of you needs understanding. The present version of you needs responsibility. The future version of you needs protection. Healing begins when all three are finally placed on the same side. You look back at who you were and say, I understand why you made those choices, but I will not repeat them. You look at who you are today and say, I accept where I am, but I will not remain here. You look toward your future and say, I will make decisions that give you a better life. This is how the inner war begins to end. It ends when you stop confusing self-acceptance with permission to remain unchanged. Accepting yourself does not mean accepting every unhealthy habit. Loving yourself does not mean excusing every poor decision. True self-love is not always soft. Sometimes it is the firm voice that tells you to get up, leave the wrong person, complete the difficult work, face the truth, and stop hiding behind excuses. Self-love is not merely saying kind things in front of a mirror. It is choosing what protects your future when your emotions want what is familiar. It is going to sleep when distraction wants another hour. It is walking away when attachment wants another chance. It is staying silent when anger wants revenge. It is beginning when fear wants delay. It is correcting yourself without humiliating yourself. This kind of love has discipline inside it. A person who truly loves themselves does not allow every passing feeling to control their life. They understand that emotions are real, but not every emotion deserves obedience. They may feel lonely and still refuse to return to someone harmful. They may feel afraid and still take the necessary step. They may feel tired and still complete what matters. They may feel angry and still choose not to destroy something valuable. Emotional maturity is not feeling nothing. It is feeling deeply without surrendering the direction of your life. You may never become completely free from fear, doubt, sadness, or temptation. That is not the goal. The goal is to become someone who can experience those emotions without returning to self-destruction. There will still be difficult days after this book ends. There will be moments when the old voice returns and tells you that nothing has changed. There will be nights when the past feels close again. There will be people who test your boundaries, situations that awaken your insecurities, and disappointments that make old habits feel comforting. Do not mistake the presence of an old feeling for the return of your old identity. A feeling is not a decision. A temptation is not a failure. A memory is not an instruction. A setback is not the end of your transformation. The person you are becoming is not measured by whether old thoughts appear. They are measured by what happens after those thoughts appear. Perhaps the old you would have sent the message immediately. The new you waits, breathes, and protects your dignity. Perhaps the old you would have abandoned the goal after one bad day. The new you rests and begins again the next morning. Perhaps the old you would have accepted disrespect to avoid loneliness. The new you chooses temporary loneliness over permanent self-betrayal. Perhaps the old you would have turned one mistake into a week of destruction. The new you corrects the mistake before it becomes a pattern. This is progress. Progress is not always dramatic enough for other people to notice. Sometimes it is the message you did not send, the argument you refused to continue, the excuse you stopped believing, or the morning you kept going even though nobody would have blamed you for quitting. Your greatest victories may happen in silence. Nobody may applaud when you choose peace over proving a point. Nobody may know how difficult it was to keep a boundary. Nobody may understand how much strength it required to walk away from something you still loved. But you will know, and every quiet victory changes the way you see yourself. You begin realizing that you are not helpless before your emotions. You are not permanently controlled by your past. You are not required to repeat every pattern you learned while surviving. You have choices. That may be the most important truth in this entire book. You have choices. You may not control everything that happens, but you can choose how long you keep giving it power. You may not control another person's behavior, but you can choose whether they continue receiving access to you. You may not control the first thought that enters your mind, but you can choose whether that thought becomes your belief. You may not control the past, but you can choose whether the past becomes your identity. Your power does not come from controlling life. It comes from controlling your participation. For years you may have waited for life to become fair before allowing yourself to heal. You may have believed that peace would arrive after people apologized, circumstances improved, or everything finally made sense. But peace often begins before any of that happens. It begins when you stop arguing with reality. This does not mean you approve of what happened. It means you stop wasting your life wishing that an unchangeable past had been different. You accept that they left. You accept that the opportunity was missed. You accept that you stayed too long. You accept that some people will never understand you. You accept that you cannot recover every year, every conversation, or every piece of energy you gave away. Acceptance is painful because it removes the fantasy that the past can still be repaired. But it also removes the burden of waiting for that repair. You stop asking life to return what has already been spent, and you begin protecting what still remains. You still have time. You still have choices. You still have a mind that can learn, a heart that can heal, and a future that has not been written. Do not allow regret to convince you that the best part of your life is already behind you. Regret is often the mind looking backward with information it did not have at the time. It sees the warning signs clearly now and assumes you should have seen them clearly then. It forgets your emotional condition, your limited experience, and the hope that influenced your decisions. Learn from regret, but do not worship it. Regret should point toward a better decision, not become another place where you live. Ask yourself what the past is trying to teach you. Did it teach you to trust actions more than promises? Did it teach you that loneliness is survivable, but self-abandonment is destructive? Did it teach you that delaying important decisions increases their cost? Did it teach you to protect your energy, listen to your intuition, and stop explaining obvious pain to people committed to misunderstanding it? Then take the lesson seriously. A lesson is not complete until it changes your behavior. Many people can describe exactly why their life is painful, but they continue repeating the same choices. They understand the pattern intellectually, yet remain emotionally loyal to it. They know the person is harmful, the habit is destructive, and the excuse is weak, but knowledge alone does not free them. Freedom requires action. At some point, you must stop saying, "I know," and begin saying, "I choose differently." You know the relationship is draining you, so create distance. You know the habit is stealing your time, so change the environment that makes it easy. You know the task matters, so begin before you feel inspired. You know the boundary is necessary, so keep it even when guilt appears. You know the inner voice is lying, so stop making decisions based on its predictions. The truth must eventually become behavior. Otherwise, it remains only information. Your life does not change because you heard something powerful. It changes because you practiced it after the emotion of hearing it disappeared. This is why the days after inspiration matter more than the moment of inspiration itself. Right now, you may feel strong. You may feel ready to close old doors, build better habits, and become a different person. But transformation will be tested when this feeling becomes quieter. Tomorrow morning, ordinary life will return. The phone will be near you. The unfinished task will still require effort. The person you should not contact may still be on your mind. The old excuse may sound reasonable again. That is where the real chapter begins. Not here, while the words are fresh. There, when nobody is reminding you, create systems that protect you during those moments. Do not depend only on willpower. Willpower becomes weaker when you are tired, emotional, or distracted. Change your surroundings so the better choice becomes easier and the destructive choice becomes more difficult. Remove the contact you keep returning to. Block access if access repeatedly weakens you. Place the phone away while working. Prepare what you need before the morning arrives. Write down your reasons for changing and read them when memory becomes selective. Choose people who support the person you are becoming, instead of constantly inviting the old version of you back. Environment matters because the strongest intentions can collapse inside surroundings designed for old habits. You are not weak for needing structure. Structure is wisdom. A recovering person does not keep the source of destruction beside them and call resistance strength. They create distance. They remove temptation. They protect themselves before the weak moment arrives. Do not wait until you are emotionally overwhelmed to decide what you will do. Decide while you are clear. Make rules for your weakest moments using the wisdom of your strongest moments. Decide that when you feel lonely, you will not contact the person who destroyed your peace. Decide that when you fail, You will not turn one mistake into an entire week of giving up. Decide that when someone disrespects your boundary, you will not enter a long argument to prove why the boundary matters. Decide that when fear appears, you will take one small action before allowing yourself to overthink. These decisions create stability. Without them, every difficult emotion becomes another negotiation. You ask yourself repeatedly whether you should return, quit, react, or delay. Eventually, exhaustion makes the decision for you. Stop renegotiating values you have already chosen. If peace matters, protect it consistently. If dignity matters, do not trade it for temporary attention. If growth matters, stop treating every inconvenience as a reason to stop. Your standards should not disappear whenever your emotions become intense. A standard that exists only when it is easy is not yet a standard. It is a preference. Your new life will require non-negotiables, not 100 impossible rules, but a few clear commitments that guide you when emotions become unreliable. Perhaps one commitment is that you will never beg someone to see your value again. Another may be that you will not speak to yourself with language that destroys your identity. Another may be that you will complete one meaningful task before entering distraction. Another may be that you will leave any environment where disrespect becomes a pattern. These commitments become the walls protecting your future. Some people will call your standards too high because your lack of standards once made their life easier. They will say you have changed, become difficult, or take yourself too seriously. Let them speak. You are not rebuilding your life to remain convenient for people who benefited from your pain. You are rebuilding because continuing as before has become unbearable. There is no transformation without loss. You may lose people who only liked you without boundaries. You may lose habits that once helped you escape discomfort. You may lose the identity of being the one who always forgives, always understands, and always sacrifices. You may even lose the approval of people whose opinions once controlled you. Every loss will not be evidence that you made the wrong decision. Some losses are proof that the decision is working. When a tree grows, old bark falls away. When a life changes, old attachments often do the same. Do not run backward to collect everything growth removes. Let some things leave. Let some conversations end without another explanation. Let some people misunderstand you. Let some versions of yourself become memories. You do not need to carry every identity you once had into every future you enter. Perhaps you were once the person who begged, chased, delayed, over-explained, and accepted less. That person was not weak. They were surviving with the tools they had. Honor them by becoming someone with better tools. Do not dishonor their struggle by remaining trapped in the same place after learning the way out. The person you were brought you here, the person you are becoming, must take you forward. This requires courage, but courage is often misunderstood. Courage is not feeling completely fearless. Courage is deciding that something matters more than the fear. Your peace matters more than the fear of losing someone. Your future matters more than the fear of beginning imperfectly. Your dignity matters more than the fear of being misunderstood. Your growth matters more than the fear of leaving familiar surroundings. Your life matters more than the comfort of remaining unchanged. When something greater than fear becomes clear, courage becomes possible. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and begin asking, "What will happen if I never try?" You stop asking, "What if they leave?" and begin asking, "What will happen if I keep leaving myself?" You stop asking, "What if people judge me?" and begin asking, "What will happen if I build my entire life around avoiding their judgment?" The questions you ask determine the direction of your attention. Fear asks questions that protect comfort. Wisdom asks questions that protect the future. Begin asking better questions. Instead of asking why you are not further ahead, ask what one action would move you forward today. Instead of asking why someone did not choose you, ask why their choice became more important than your own. Instead of asking whether you are good enough, ask what skill, habit, or decision would make you stronger. Instead of asking when life will become easier, ask how you can become more capable. Strong questions create strong directions. This does not mean you must become hard, emotionless, or completely independent. Taking back your life does not require you to stop needing people. Human beings need connection, support, care, and community. The goal is not isolation. The goal is healthy connection without self-abandonment. You can love deeply without losing your boundaries. You can care about someone without carrying every problem they refuse to solve. You can receive support without making another person responsible for your entire emotional stability. You can be generous without allowing people to consume you. Healthy love does not ask you to disappear. The right people will not require the destruction of your identity as proof of devotion. They will not make you feel guilty for having needs, standards, goals, or limits. They will not punish you for becoming stronger. Choose relationships where growth is welcomed. Choose people who tell you the truth without attacking your worth, who respect your boundaries without making everything about themselves, and who celebrate your progress without feeling threatened by it. You become like what you repeatedly remain around. If your environment normalizes excuses, you may begin protecting your own. If your environment celebrates discipline, honesty, and growth, those qualities become easier to practice. Choose your influences carefully. Not everyone deserves access to your mind. The content you consume, the conversations you repeat, and the people you listen to are planting thoughts inside you every day. Some thoughts will become beliefs, and those beliefs will eventually shape decisions. Protect the entrance. You would not allow someone to enter your home every day and fill it with poison. Yet many people allow negative voices to enter their minds for hours. They listen to people who constantly complain, mock ambition, glorify chaos, and treat growth as something unrealistic. Then they wonder why their motivation disappears. Your attention is one of your most valuable resources. Where attention goes, energy follows. Where energy goes, life begins to grow. If your attention remains on people who left, mistakes that cannot be changed, and fears that may never happen, then your energy remains unavailable for the future. Take your attention back. Stop checking what no longer belongs to you. Stop studying the life of someone who chose a different path. Stop searching for hidden meaning in silence. Stop giving hours to thoughts that have never given you one useful answer. Your mind may resist because obsession has become familiar. It may tell you that one more check will bring closure, one more conversation will create understanding, or one more night of overthinking will reveal the answer. It will not. Some answers arrive only after you stop asking the wrong person. Some clarity appears only after distance. Some peace enters only when attention leaves the place where pain keeps feeding itself. Bring your attention home. Place it on your health, your work, your character, your faith, your discipline, and the life still waiting to be built. Every hour you recover from the past becomes material for your future. Use it well. You do not need to transform every area of your life at once. Trying to change everything immediately may become another form of self-destruction because the plan becomes too heavy to maintain. Choose one area. Make one honest commitment. Keep it long enough for it to become evidence. Perhaps the first area is your inner voice. For the next week, refuse to use absolute cruel language against yourself. Perhaps it is your attention. Stop checking the person who disturbs your peace. Perhaps it is discipline. Complete one important task every morning before distraction. Perhaps it is your body. Walk, rest, eat, or care for yourself with consistency. One stable change can influence many others. When you begin trusting yourself in one area, that confidence spreads. You realize you can keep a promise. You realize discomfort does not destroy you. You realize your behavior is not permanently controlled by your old identity. Momentum begins. Do not destroy momentum by demanding immediate perfection. You may miss a day. You may have a weak moment. You may respond in an old way before realizing what happened. Return quickly. The difference between a setback and a return to the old life is often how long you remain there. One mistake becomes dangerous when shame convinces you to continue. You miss one day and tell yourself the routine is ruined. so you miss the next 6. You contact the person once and decide all healing was wasted, so you fully reopen the connection. You react emotionally one time and conclude that you have not changed. This is the old pattern, using perfection to destroy progress. Do not cooperate with it. Correct the direction immediately. A driver who briefly moves into the wrong lane does not continue toward the wrong destination because of embarrassment. They adjust. Do the same. Return without drama. Return without self-hatred. Return because the direction still matters. Your transformation will become stronger when you learn how to recover quickly. Anyone can act well during a perfect week. Strength appears in the way you respond after disappointment. Do you punish yourself or guide yourself? Do you quit or adjust? Do you use the mistake as proof against your identity, or do you use it as information? The person who can recover is more powerful than the person who believes they must never fall. You will fall sometimes. Learn to rise without turning the ground into your home. As you grow, you will begin noticing something beautiful. The life that once felt impossible slowly becomes normal. Peace begins feeling more natural than chaos. Consistency begins feeling better than temporary motivation. Solitude becomes a place of restoration instead of punishment. Boundaries feel less like rejection and more like protection. You no longer need everyone to understand you. You no longer chase explanations from people whose behavior already provided the answer. You no longer treat your emotions as emergencies. You begin responding instead of reacting. This change may happen so gradually that you do not notice it at first. Then one day, a situation that once would have destroyed you appears, and you handle it differently. Someone withdraws, and you do not chase. Someone misunderstands you, and you do not write a long explanation. A plan fails, and you do not call yourself a failure. Fear appears, and you act anyway. In that moment, you realize the old version of you is no longer in control. That realization will be worth every uncomfortable step. You will look back and understand that the hardest period was not destroying you. It was introducing you to your strength. The rejection taught you to stop begging. The betrayal taught you to trust behavior. The loneliness taught you to become safe in your own company. The failure taught you to begin without guarantees. The guilt taught you to forgive yourself. The delay taught you the price of waiting. The chaos taught you the value of peace. Nothing becomes automatically good because it taught you something. Pain is still pain. You do not need to romanticize what hurt you, but you can refuse to let it remain meaningless. You can use the experience. You can allow the wound to become wisdom rather than identity. This is how you win, not by pretending you were never hurt, but by refusing to become permanently controlled by the hurt. Not by erasing the past, but by ending its authority over your future. Not by becoming cold, but by becoming clear. Not by destroying the people who hurt you, but by no longer allowing their actions to destroy you. Your victory will not always look like revenge. Sometimes victory is sleeping peacefully while they remain committed to chaos. Sometimes it is no longer needing the apology. Sometimes it is meeting someone healthier and realizing how little you once accepted. Sometimes it is building the life you kept delaying while waiting for another person to recognize your value. Sometimes it is looking into the mirror and no longer seeing someone who needs to be rescued. That is the deepest freedom. You stop looking outside yourself for permission to live. You stop waiting for someone to choose you before choosing yourself. You stop asking whether you deserve another beginning. You begin. There is no final moment when all healing is complete, and no difficulty can ever reach you again. Life will continue changing. New challenges will appear. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Loss will visit. But you will meet those moments differently because you will no longer arrive as your own enemy. You will arrive as someone who knows how to stand beside themselves. You will say, "This hurts, but I will not destroy myself because it hurts." You will say, "I am disappointed, but I will not abandon everything I have built." You will say, "I feel afraid, but I will not hand fear complete control." You will say, "I made a mistake, but I remain worthy of correction and another attempt. This inner loyalty is what you have been searching for. You may have believed you needed someone else to promise they would never leave. What you needed most was to make that promise to yourself. I will not leave myself when life becomes difficult. I will not insult myself when I make a mistake. I will not sacrifice my dignity to keep someone close. I will not continue habits that destroy the future I say I want. I will not return to what repeatedly breaks me. I will become someone I can trust. Make those promises seriously. Then understand that promises are not protected by emotion. They are protected by action. Every day, you will be given another opportunity to prove them. Some opportunities will look small. You will choose whether to get up, whether to complete the work, whether to respond to the message, whether to believe the negative thought, and whether to remain inside the old pattern. Do not call those decisions small. They are where your new life is created. Destiny is often hidden inside ordinary choices. A person does not suddenly become peaceful. They choose peace during hundreds of moments when chaos would have been easier. A person does not suddenly become disciplined. They complete hundreds of tasks while motivation is absent. A person does not suddenly gain self-respect. They protect themselves during hundreds of moments when approval is available at the price of dignity. Your future identity is waiting inside repeated decisions. Feed it, strengthen it. Protect it until it becomes the most natural version of you. There may still be people who remember the old you. They may try to remind you of what you once accepted, what you once did, or how many times you failed. Let them remember. You do not need to remain loyal to their memory of you. Their understanding is not required for your transformation. You know what it costs to become different. You know the nights you fought your mind, the boundaries you almost broke, and the days you continued without feeling strong. Do not return to the old version of yourself just because it makes other people more comfortable. You are allowed to outgrow expectations. You are allowed to surprise people. You are allowed to become unrecognizable to those who only knew you when you were destroying yourself. The most important recognition will come from within. You will recognize your own voice again, not the voice of fear, not the voice of the people who criticized you, not the voice of regret. Your voice, clear, calm, and honest. It will tell you when something is wrong, and you will listen. It will tell you that you deserve peace, and you will stop arguing. It will tell you to begin, and you will move. It will tell you to leave, and you will trust the lesson. This is self-trust. It is not arrogance. It is not believing you will always be right. It is knowing that even when you are wrong, you will be willing to face the truth, correct yourself, and protect your life. You no longer need to fear every decision because you are not promising perfection. You are promising presence. You will remain present for yourself through the consequences, learning and rebuilding. That is enough. Now look honestly at the life in front of you. What must end? What must begin? What must be protected? What are you pretending not to know? There is likely one answer that arrived immediately. Do not run from it. That answer may be uncomfortable because truth often asks for action. It may ask you to end a connection, change a habit, begin difficult work, admit a mistake, or stop waiting for someone who has already chosen another direction. Listen anyway. Your intuition has been whispering beneath the noise. You may have ignored it because obeying it would require loss, change, or temporary discomfort. But ignoring truth does not remove its consequences. It only delays the decision while increasing the cost. Choose the honest pain now over the destructive pain later. The honest pain is the pain of leaving, beginning, admitting, changing, and growing. The destructive pain is the pain of staying, repeating, hiding, delaying, and betraying yourself. Both paths may contain discomfort. Only one leads toward freedom. Choose the discomfort that builds you. You have already experienced enough of the discomfort that destroys you. There is no need for another year of the same lesson. You do not need another betrayal to understand the person is unsafe. You do not need another failure caused by delay to understand that action matters. You do not need another night of self-hatred to understand that cruelty is not discipline. You do not need another return to the past to understand why the door was closed. The lesson has been delivered. Now honor it through your next decision. This chapter is not the end of your story. It is the end of your agreement with self-destruction. It is the moment you stop treating your life as something that can always be repaired later. Later is not guaranteed, and even when it arrives, it often carries the consequences of everything you refuse to face today. Your time matters. Your energy matters. Your attention matters. Your dignity matters. Your future matters. Treat them accordingly. Stop giving your best years to people who give you confusion. Stop giving your strongest attention to thoughts that make you weak. Stop giving your future to habits that offer only temporary comfort. Stop giving your identity to mistakes that are already finished. You are not here to spend your entire life recovering from yourself. You are here to build, connect, create, love, grow, and experience the peace that becomes possible when you finally stand on your own side. Stand there now. Stand beside the person in you who is afraid. Stand beside the person who regrets. Stand beside the person who is still learning. Do not attack them. Guide them. Tell them that the war is over. Tell them that from this moment, every correction will be made with honesty instead of hatred. Every boundary will be protected with courage instead of guilt. And every future step will be chosen with self-respect instead of fear. You are no longer working against yourself. Your mind, actions, values, and future are beginning to move in the same direction. That is power. When everything inside you moves in the same direction, life becomes clearer. You stop wasting energy arguing with what you already know. You stop making promises you do not intend to keep. You stop living two lives. One you describe, and another you repeatedly choose. Your words and behavior begin matching. You say peace matters, and you stop entertaining chaos. You say growth matters, and you complete the work. You say dignity matters, and you stop begging. You say your future matters, and you stop sacrificing it for temporary comfort. This alignment creates strength. No person can easily control someone whose values are clear. No temporary emotion can completely destroy someone who has decided where they are going. No past version can permanently trap someone willing to choose differently today. You are more powerful than the pattern. You are more than the wound. You are more than the mistake. You are more than the rejection. You are more than the voice that has spent years telling you otherwise. Your life is not finished because you lost time. It is not ruined because you trusted the wrong person. It is not too late because you are beginning slowly. A slow beginning is still a beginning. A difficult beginning is still a beginning. An imperfect beginning can still create a beautiful ending. Begin from where you are. Use what you know. Protect what remains. Build with what you have. Do not wait to become fearless, fully healed, perfectly confident, or completely prepared. Those conditions may never arrive together. Begin as you are and allow the journey to strengthen you. Years from now, you may look back at this exact season and realize that your life changed when you became tired of being the person standing in your own way. Not when life became easier, not when everyone supported you, not when the fear disappeared. When you finally decided that you would no longer participate in your own destruction. That decision may look quiet today, but quiet decisions can create loud transformations. One day, your peace will speak for you. Your discipline will speak for you. Your boundaries will speak for you. Your life will become the answer to every voice that said you could not change. You will not need to argue. You will have evidence, and the most beautiful evidence will not be money, attention, success, or approval. It will be the person you see when you are alone, a person who no longer hates themselves, a person who no longer chases what rejects them, a person who no longer destroys tomorrow to escape today's discomfort, a person who knows they are imperfect, but still worthy of loyalty, a person who finally feels safe inside their own life. That person is not far away. They are being created through your next decision. Choose carefully. Choose courage over comfort. Choose truth over illusion. Choose discipline over temporary desire. Choose self-respect over approval. Choose peace over familiar chaos. Choose the future over the past. And above all, choose yourself, not in a selfish way that ignores others, but in a healthy way that no longer requires you to disappear in order to be loved. The war within ends when you stop trying to destroy the person you are and begin taking responsibility for the person you can become. You have punished yourself enough. You have delayed enough. You have returned enough. You have doubted enough. Now it is time to live differently. Take back your attention. Take back your voice. Take back your boundaries. Take back your time. Take back your future. Take back your life. The door is open. Walk through it and do not turn around. You have reached the end of this book, but this cannot become the end of the message, because the truth is simple. You were never born to spend your entire life fighting yourself. You were not created to keep returning to people who break you, thoughts that weaken you, habits that delay you, and mistakes that have already taught you everything they came to teach. You have suffered enough from your own hands. You have doubted yourself enough. You have abandoned yourself enough. Now it is time to become the person who stays. The person who stays when life becomes difficult. The person who stays after rejection. The person who stays after failure. The person who does not disappear from their own life simply because someone else decided to leave. From this moment forward, stop asking whether you are worthy of another beginning. Begin. Stop waiting for the past to apologize. Move forward. Stop waiting for fear to disappear. Take the step while fear is still present. Stop waiting for someone to rescue you. Become loyal to your own future. You do not need to change everything tonight. You do not need a perfect plan, unlimited motivation, or complete confidence. You only need one honest decision that proves you are no longer willing to continue destroying yourself. Perhaps that decision is closing a door you keep reopening. Perhaps it is forgiving yourself for what you did when you did not know better. Perhaps it is beginning the work you have delayed for years. Perhaps it is looking into the mirror and refusing to insult the person standing there. Whatever that decision is, make it real through action, because your life will not change through the promises you feel strongly for one night. It will change through the promises you continue keeping when the emotion becomes quiet. There will still be hard days. The old voice may return. The old pain may knock. The old habit may call you by name, but you are no longer required to answer. You can hear the voice without believing it. You can remember the past without returning to it. You can feel lonely without abandoning your standards. You can make a mistake without becoming your own enemy again. This is your new strength, not perfection, not fearlessness, not a life without pain. Your strength is knowing that no matter what happens next, you will no longer help the pain destroy you. You will stand beside yourself. You will guide yourself. You will correct yourself without cruelty. You will protect yourself without guilt. And you will keep walking, even when the road is slow and nobody understands what it took for you to come this far. One day, you will look back at the person you are today and feel proud. Not because they had everything figured out, but because they finally stopped running from the truth. They stopped begging for what should have been given freely. They stopped trading peace for attention. They stopped making excuses for the habits stealing their future. They stopped allowing one broken chapter to become the meaning of their entire life. That person made a decision, and because of that decision, everything slowly changed. Let this be your decision. Say it clearly, not only with your mouth, but with the way you live. From this moment forward, I will stop destroying myself. I will stop abandoning my future for temporary comfort. I will stop returning to what has already broken me. I will stop speaking to myself like an enemy. I will become someone I can trust. I will protect my peace. I will keep moving forward. And this time, I will not leave myself behind. Remember, the life you want is not waiting for a perfect version of you. It is waiting for the present version of you to take the next honest step. Take that step, then take another. Keep going until peace feels natural. Discipline becomes part of your identity, and the person in the mirror finally feels like someone you are proud to stand beside. If this audiobook spoke to the part of you that is ready to change, subscribe to the Book Frog, like this audiobook, and share it with someone who may be silently fighting themselves. And in the comments, write this promise: I will no longer destroy the life I am meant to live. Let those words become more than a comment. Let them become the beginning of your new life. You have punished yourself enough. You have waited long enough. You have lost enough time. Now choose yourself. Choose healing. Choose discipline. Choose peace. Choose the future. And never again become the reason your own life cannot move forward.